Welcome to our kitchen. Today we prepare early medieval kohlrabi stew from Antimus de Observatione Ciborum. We start with ingredients. We need pork ribs, kohlrabi, cured pork fatback and vinegar. The original recipe calls for rutabaga, but we decided to use the kohlrabi we had harvested from our garden. Contrary to common belief, kohlrabi was already used in the early Middle Ages. As we read in Carolus Magnus Capitulare de Villis and Isidore of Seville's Etymologiae, also known as Origines. The Capitulare de Villis, dating back to the end of the 8th century or the beginning of the 9th century, is a fundamental source for culinary history, because it lists the vegetables cultivated in the Carolingian territories, among which we find both caulis and ravacaulis. We peel the kohlrabi, we chop the stem and the leaves, and we cut the pork ribs. Ravacaulis literally means turnip cabbage, which is the same as kohlrabi. Isidore, who lived between the 6th and the 7th centuries, calls it napocaulis. This term focuses on the similarity with rutabaga instead of turnip, but clearly refers to the same plant. According to Isidore, napocaulis is a compound word derived from napus, which means rutabaga, and caulis, which is the cabbage. In fact, in the Etymologiae we read that it has the flavor of rutabaga, but being a cabbage, it's its stem that grows, not its root, like rutabaga and turnip. We mince the pork fatback and render it in a pan. We add the pork ribs and cook them for about an hour. If necessary, add a bit of water to keep the ribs from burning. Then we add the kohlrabi and a bit of vinegar and cook for half an hour. We add the leaves and cook for another half an hour, or until everything is cooked through. Antimus' book, written in the 6th century, only provides general guidelines for a proper diet, and these principles must be understood and adapted to specific individual cases. For this reason, we can modify the recipes according to our taste. We can use rutabaga, turnip or other similar vegetables, without making a dish very different from what Antimus intended, or use a different kind of meat to taste. We recommend a meat such as lamb, pork or beef, since in medieval culinary and dietetic sources, fatty meats are considered the best to combine with cabbage, turnip or rutabaga in order to balance their properties. The Observatione Ciborum is one of the few sources of early medieval cuisine written in Latin. It is a fundamental text because it shows the link between the ancient tradition and the cuisine of the late Middle Ages, with recipes and dietary advice that shed light on alimentary use in a scarcely known period. Our translation is accompanied by a glossary and an introduction. You find it on Amazon with the title The Observatione Ciborum, Early Medieval Recipes at the Court of the Franks. On our Patreon page, you find articles and translations of several historical texts, including the Recoquinaria and the Vinidarius Excerpta, another early medieval source, as well as texts on dietetics such as the Flora Dietarum and medieval cookbooks. If you're interested in ancient food, check out our book Ancient Roman Cooking. For more information about vegetables in the history of Italian cuisine, read Early Italian Recipes, Vegetables, Fruit, Herbs and Flowers. To know more about late medieval cooking, we recommend Libro della Cucina, Medieval Tuscan Recipes, and Registrum Coquine, a medieval cookbook. To support our work, you can also buy us a beer and purchase our merchandise. You find all the links in the description below. This stew was amazing, hearty and simple, perfect to be paired with a pulse for a tasty autumn meal. To make the flavor a little more complex, we could add a pinch of pepper, a spice that Antimus often uses, as well as costus and cloves. But the stew is very good also prepared this way. You find the link to the recipe for the pulse in the description below. If you're interested in ancient food and flavors, subscribe our channel and consider supporting us on Patreon.